tips for figuring out the right portion sizes for you. Okay, so remember, this is for you, not for anyone else. You have to know what portions you're starting with. So I think one of the things that throws people off the most is that you actually have no idea what certain portions look like. And it's pretty easy to figure this out if you think about what you're buying at the store and you buy a pound of meat. A pound of meat is 16 ounces. So obviously this is before it's cooked, but divide that into 4 and you've got 4 4-ounce servings of that protein. So a portion size, and about an average portion size for most women for protein is 4 ounces up to about 6 ounces in a meal. And you know, it's not that big of a range, but the difference in how much food it is, the difference in how much satiety and how many calories it is pretty big. I mean, actually some women might only eat about 3 ounces of protein at a meal. So maybe it's even 3 to 6 ounces. So we're talking about a pretty small range there, 3 to 6 ounces. And for men, usually anywhere from, let's say, 5 to 8 ounces of protein in a meal. It could be a little bit less sometimes. This is one of the best things to do, is to start out by seeing what you're currently eating, because in order to make changes, you have to know what you're starting with, right? So anytime somebody wants to gain weight, gain muscle mass, or lose body fat, you typically step on the scale just to see where you're at. You know, you don't need to use it as a point of judgment, but you want to see where you're at. So I don't introduce this to make anybody crazy, okay? But this is the best tool that you're gonna have for figuring out what you're talking about in terms of a portion. It's a food scale. It's not a big deal. I think some people get a little crazy with the idea of saying not to weigh and measure food. I think for a lot of people, it actually turns the tables and helps them see what was even going in, because you can easily be overeating to the point where you didn't need it for satiety. And if you realize that you were eating 8 ounces of ground meat every time you were sitting down to eat, and 6 ounces would have given you enough satiety, then that's 2 ounces extra that you really didn't need. And if you have goals and you don't want to eat all of that, then it's important to know that. So I think weighing your food for about a week will help you to get a gauge of what you're doing, and that can be really useful. So for other tools to figure out how much you're eating, and I'm not giving you guys this as this is not a joke, but measuring cups, okay? We use them in recipes, but this is how you can know exactly how much you're eating. And I've seen some people say that a handful is about a cup. I think a handful, for me, my hands are pretty small. I think a handful is more like a half a cup of something like vegetables. Please don't measure white rice in your hand, but a half a cup. Using this will help you see what the portion looks like. The reason it's helpful to do the measuring at some point in time is at some point you're not going to be around your food scale. You don't want to freak out. This isn't something that you're trying to go crazy and micromanage. But if you've seen what the portion looks like at home multiple times over, then knowing what a half a cup is, give or take, is going to help so much when you're dining out and you're trying to stay on track with your plan. And when I talk about a plan, you know, I am not somebody to give prescriptive fat loss plans. It's not my expertise, and there are plenty of people out there who do it. I want you to eat the right amount of food for you, for your satiety. And so when you learn what the portions are, and this is something I learned many years ago, I was easily eating 8 ounces of ground meat at a sitting. And I learned that I could eat, at that time with what I was doing, 6 ounces and still feel totally satisfied. So when I realized I was overeating 2 ounces of protein at each meal that I didn't really need, but I like to eat. So I was eating it and it tasted really good. But when I realized I didn't need it for satiety, that over the course of 3 meals, that's 6 extra ounces I was eating per day that I didn't need, okay? So this is not to get everybody, again, in like a crazy, let's stop eating all this food. It's just knowledge is power. If you know what it is, you can do something with it, okay? So there's that. Also, spoons. If you're not sure how much olive oil you're putting on your salad, I don't like the shape of a tablespoon. Does anybody else not like these flat tablespoons? I like the ones that are like a little different. They're like deeper, smaller. Anyway, they're all gonna hold the same volume. They're all gonna hold a tablespoon of liquid. So if you want to know how much oil is going onto your salad, you're gonna use a tablespoon or a teaspoon. And the other thing you can do too is if you're mixing salad dressings, if you know that your salad dressing ratio is, let's say you're doing 2/3 of a cup of oil to 1/3 of a cup of vinegar or lemon juice. When you take a tablespoon, you know that it's 2 teaspoons of oil. If it's well blended, you know that 2/3 of what's in there is oil versus acid or vinegar or something like that. So that's the way that you know. And honestly, making your own food is a really good way to know exactly what's in it. So that's the first tip, knowing what portions you're starting with.